Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, the brand new American blockbuster film that comes out on March 31st. Incredibly exciting. I've seen the whole thing. Warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning for Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Let's go! Okay, here we go. All right, so here's the point of today's video. I want to talk today about the canon that the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is establishing for every Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Master today. And every Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition player, okay? I believe, so basically what I'm saying is that the movie is bidirectional in canon. There is clear, it's not debatable, it's 100% non-debatable, that, the bidirectional canonicity of the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is absolutely a non-debatable subject. The only thing that might be up for debate is the extent of the bidirectional canonicity of the Dungeons & Dragons movie. Let me walk you there, okay? Because once we start talking about this, and we realize that the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie is establishing canon for the Dungeons & Dragons game, the ramifications are massive, okay? All right, so listen to this. So first of all, so it is not a debatable subject. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a fully bidirectional canon product, okay? So we know for a fact that Daly and Goldstein, the directors of the film, went to Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford, and Amanda Heyman and said, give us your canon. And they did, right? D&D 5e, not crusty old Grognan. Nobody talked to, nobody talked to any old grognards, from, 1 and 2e. They talked to current, they gave them current D&D 5e canon, right? Which is what you want, right? So, so we get there, right? And so the canon is so canon went into the movie. Canon went from the D&D product, the game, into the film. Non-debatable, already happened. That ship has sailed, okay? All right. Then the movie has already established canon in the D&D game. So Holga Kilgore, Forge Fitzwilliams, who has interacted with Lord Neverember, right? So this is a big deal. Lord Neverember, his leadership of Neverwinter is directly impacted by Forge Fitzwilliams. So these canon changes are not small. Literally, the leadership of the Neverwinter city has been changed forever by the D&D Honor Among Thieves film. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible, right? So let's walk this all the way there, right? So you have that happening, okay? And then Holga Kilgore, Egan Darvis, Simon Aumer. Right there. We know Elminster's great-great-great-grandson. That's set. That's a fact. That's canon, right? And it was established through D&D Beyond, which is an authoritative canon source, right? Just like the D&D canon hardbacks. So the movie is sending canon into the game, okay? How far does that go? That's a very good question, and I'm going to give you my opinion right now. So get this. Massive changes to the rules of Dungeons & Dragons coming out of this film. Right? It's not just the stat blocks that are on D&D Beyond. It's already established that this film is canon. The things that are happening in it are canon, are going to be respected, are going to be part of the D&D lore going forward. That is huge, okay? So in the movie, right, one of the things you see is the anti-magic aura bracelet, okay? This anti-magic aura bracelet, which locks onto your wrist, is put onto Simon Aumer and is put onto Wild Shape Druid Doric, okay? It shuts down the magic of a druid. It shuts down the magic of a sorcerer. Bracelet, clickety clack, onto your arm. You can no longer cast. Period. End of sentence. And I mean nothing. Not verbal, not somatic, not material. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have the material and the somatics. You can even move your arms, but this thing is on your wrists. You're done. Okay, you cannot wild shape. You cannot cast. Right? That's huge. That did not exist in Dungeons & Dragons, the game, before March 19th, 2023. On March 19th, when I saw the movie, that object is in D&D 5e as canon now, right? Because what they're saying is everything you're seeing on the screen, this is canon, right? And you're like, wait a second, I don't think you can wild shape that quickly. You can now, right? Like, the movie is changing the game, right? And you're like, Scott, hold on. Why would they do that? Billions of dollars on the line. They're heavily incented to make sure that you realize this is not a story. This is reshaping the canon of D&D 5e, right? So if you are a D&D 5e dungeon master and you don't see this movie, you are not really running D&D 5e because you don't know its current canon, right? And any player who sits at your table is going to be like, hey, I know you read the books and I know you are on D&D Beyond, but I can't respect you as a dungeon master. You don't know the canon, right? And just like D&D canon hardbacks are canon, and D&D Beyond is canon, D&D Honor Among Thieves is canon. That's non-debatable. The only debatable subject is how far that canon extends, right? It's not debatable because it's done, right? Like Holga Kilgore and those characters are canon in Dungeons & Dragons. And those stat blocks change some very distinct rules in Dungeons & Dragons, right? Like Dungeons & Dragons, the moment those stat blocks hit, Dungeons & Dragons 5e changed forever, right? And this is important because this also means Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is now the best edition of Dungeons & Dragons ever printed because it has a Hollywood film that establishes canon for the game, which no other edition has ever had, right? Because, whatever they plopped out the other end in the 2000s, it was never treated seriously. This thing is treated seriously from top to bottom. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's really important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.